Eli, so you have seen these negotiations for decades now. So let's talk a little bit about what we can expect from North Korea, because we still haven't seen any reaction from them. Now, this letter from President Trump coming when North Korea just blew up its Punggye-ri nuclear site. We also know that they released the 3 U.S. detainees. How can they get out of this situation without losing face?
Well, I mean, I think the larger question to ask right now is not so much how do they get out of it without losing face. I mean, they've already kind of issued a series of bellicose warnings, and the very fact is that their behavior from 6 months, a year ago was so incredibly dangerous and out of the norm that it prompted these UN sanctions and more pressure from China. But I think that, you know, if there is a line to Kim Jong Un from the U.S. And that channel kind of remains, the message needs to be, if you want to keep your regime, if you're interested in regime survival, and that has always been the framework of a bargain, regime survival for the nuclear and missiles and so forth, and that's been that way for almost 30 years, then, you know, the message needs to be, you need to reform. I think a shrewd move at this point would be to try to pursue a kind of agreement similar to the Helsinki Accords of the Cold War, which had an element which began to address the Soviet and the Eastern Bloc countries' commitment to human rights. And that was a rallying point for many dissidents in the early 1980s to begin organizing that eventually, you know, became an important part of the Soviet Union reforming and ultimately collapsing. And that is the real message, because the U.S. is not going to invade North Korea. The United States cannot really get much done through the CIA or something like that. But really, someone like Kim Jong Un, if he cares about, you know, the Kim dynasty, he has to worry about the North Koreans who have to live under his gulag state. And eventually, if he does not join the modern world and begin to approach governance in the way that most countries do these days, there will be a breaking point. We don't know exactly when it will be, but that's where he really has to fear. And I think that that's the message that should be sent at this point.